BBQ Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show, a show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rippey. Happy to have you aboard here for your Tuesday. If you are ready to jump into that content, thoughts, frivolity, comedy, or a bevy of all that was just listed, here is your contact information.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Everything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. By the way, you can get the newsletter by going over to the main website and signing up right in the newsletter section. Just go ahead and shoot me your email address. I believe that's all you need. And you will get alerted to what is going down a little bit later in the evening. Every Tuesday, right around noon, lunchtime, Eastern Standard Time, whatever, 12, high noon, as I used to say in the Wild West. Nothing else other than very special promotion, or if there's an exceptionally good deal being offered by the sponsors, I will send out additional stuff. But usually you only have to look at like 4 newsletters a month. And I have to say, I do get some unsubscribes. And I don't understand for the life of me why you there has to be 50 other newsletters that you have opted into that are just bombarding your inbox like crazy. And I'm doing it once a week at noon Eastern on Tuesdays. And you're unsubscribed like that. The Barbecue Central Show newsletter is the thing that is pushing you over the edge. And you're going to unsubscribe to my newsletter? The thing that really pisses me off is that I'm not allowed to then redact the barbecue sauce recipe that I give you as a thank you when you sign up for the newsletter. Pisses me off. Anyway, here's what's happening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, Malcom Reed, How to BBQ Right, our normal first Tuesday of the month guest, our also normal first Tuesday of the month guest, following Malcolm in his 9:35 segment, Sam the Cooking Guy. Then we will move to the second hour, a little bit more 2019 Barbecue Hall of Fame based, both from a short list and an actual inductee. At 10:14, Lee and Michael Quessenberry join me from Jim Quessenberry's Barbecue. And helping me close the show this evening, Jonathan Bird of Dreamland Barbecue. So Lee and Michael on the short list of 9, Jonathan Bird talking about John Bishop, who was inducted this past Wednesday to the 2019 Barbecue Hall of Fame class. And there's what's happening this evening. Don't forget, you can follow me socially in between show times and or during show times at BBQ Central Show on Insta and the Twitter, /BBQ Central Show on Facebook, which is where some of you are watching this as we speak. Couple of things to get off the docket before we get into the first break and then over to Malcom Reed from How to BBQ Right. I want to thank my Tennessee embedded correspondent, Steve Ray, for stepping in and guest hosting the show last week. If you missed it, Steve did a great job filling in for me as I attended my oldest daughter's high school graduation ceremony / commencement. I thought the embedded correspondence segment was especially great. So if you haven't heard the show from last week, make sure you download both hours and give it a listen. If you have to choose between the first hour and the second hour, from my listening perspective, I think the second hour with the embedded correspondence was absolutely fantastic. And the topics that they covered were very timely, but a lot of great differing /same/similar/divergent opinions on a bunch of the topics that they talk about. Steve did a really good job moderating that portion of the show. It's typically Steve, Doug, John, and David, and I'm the moderator, but since I dropped out, Steve did a good job of moderating the other three, but then was also adding in his 2 bits of information anyway. So thanks again to Steve Ray, the Tennessee embedded correspondent. Don't forget, if you really like barbecue talk, you can tune in to Steve Ray's show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's the Owl's Nest Barbecue Show on the Owl's Nest Barbecue page on Facebook. So thanks again to Steve. Number 2, and perhaps more importantly, did you tune in to the live Hall of Fame announcement show this past Wednesday? If you hadn't heard that, and you've been living under a rock and you don't follow anything socially that I do or promote or otherwise, here's who's in. John Big Daddy Bishop of Dreamland Barbecue in Alabama. We will be closing the show with somebody talking about Dreamland, as I had mentioned in the open. Wayne Honey Monk from Lexington Barbecue Restaurant in North Carolina, Lexington. And CB Stubbs Stubblefield, Stubbs World Famous Barbecue, Texas. Those are your 3 Hall of Famers. I also want to thank Emily Park for coming on and doing the reveal with me. I thought it was a great first step in what could be a fairly nice, unbiased partnership. I think it would be a bad idea to get into some kind of business/sponsorship deal with them because it could taint, or at least it could be perceived as tainting my objectivity on this topic, which I want to keep completely above board and transparent. And if I want to rant on something, I don't want to have to think about if I'm going to do it or not, or if I feel pressure to not do it because we're in some type of a financial partnership. Speaking of transparency, Emily reveals many things during the lead up to the 2019 class announcement. Some of those highlights were the naming of the 6 nominating committee members. If you're not familiar with them, Daniel Vaughn, sometime a guest on the show. Jim Shaheen, has been a guest on the show from the Washington Post. Adrian Miller has been a guest on the show, the soul food scholar. And then 3 that I'm not overly familiar with. John Cheltenry, and I'm not sure how to spell his name, so I didn't have a really good success rate at finding info on him. Robert Moss, who I believe, if it was the right Robert Moss, is a Southern Living barbecue writer, and Jim Achmoody, who I was able to find 0 information on. On top of revealing those nominating committee members, Emily also revealed that a fresh short list of 9 is generated each and every year. So the 6 that did not make it this year have to go into the final 9 list again next year through a whole new discussion process. Again, they are not carried over automatically next year, those 6, and then adding 3 in new. On top of that, anyone who was nominated initially is put in a pool that is held for 3 years. And after that time, the names fall off, and that person would have to be nominated again to be put back in a new 3-year carryover pool. And I did ask Emily if that list would be made public, and Emily said it was something that was being strongly considered, but wasn't something that had a timetable on putting up at this point. And to be honest, that is certainly I love to get my hands on the short list of 9, but I would love to see the bigger pool of nominees. As she had mentioned during the show on Wednesday, there were 80 nominees, and 50 of those 80 were unique names. So there were, some repeats in names, but there were 50 unique names. That was roughly double the amount of names that was the year before. Lastly, let me say this because I don't want to get it washed over during the course of time here, but it's been no secret that I have been one of the most vocal critics of the Hall since it took its current form back in 2012, beginning with the induction of Guy Fieri that year. And holding that aside, the way Emily came in last week with the most information and transparency that we have seen to date, I think it did these 2 things. One, it continually solidifies that the Barbecue Central Show is the outlet to release breaking news on to the entire live fire industry. No other show doing that or even has the ability to pull off something like we did last Wednesday. The second thing was to bring the overall level of the hall up many notches. The info that was shared shows us all that they're taking it seriously and that they want to get all their cards on the table as it relates to how these folks are picked to get into the Hall of Fame. It really helps kind of raise them up and really excites me, and I hope it excites you as well. And I hope it's something that we can put together each year. But last week was a great first step. And I want to thank Emily, Park, and all the folks over at the American Royal Association that had a part in agreeing to this communal release of information exclusive to the Barbecue Central show. Very much. It means a lot. And we look forward to doing it again next year, or if things make sense prior to next year's Barbecue Hall of Fame announcement. It was great. Malcom Reed coming up out of the break. Let me talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, your number one online shop for all things barbecue. Their curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at Big Papa Smokers has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. From the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers, Big Papa's has something for every type of outdoor cook and will help you become a better barbecue. Whether you're in the backyard or a competition pro, Big Papa has something for you. Known for the great championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard. Big Papa's offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that will transform ordinary meals into extraordinary, whether you're cooking to impress the judges or grilling for your family. Big Papa Smokers award-winning rubs and seasonings just don't disappoint. Pick up a bottle today at BigPapaSmokers.com. If you're looking to improve the flavor of your competition barbecue recipes, Big Papa Smokers has combined forces with fellow rub company Simply Marvelous Barbecue to form what is known as the West Coast Offense. And over the course of the last handful of years, the West Coast Offense has cornered the market on competitive barbecue and redefined flavor profiles that competitive cooks from across the country have begun to aim for. Big Papa Smokers has the online exclusive for Simply Marvelous Rubs. Stop by their site and pick up some today. Aside from the rubs, aside from the sauces, they got cookers. Check out the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offers special packages. How about the Old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal cooker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trail? If you have any questions, give them a call. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Ask all of your questions. They will give you all the answers, and you are ready to go. You can also shop their selection online at BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA, BigPapaSmokers.com. Malcom Reed from Killer Hogs and How to Barbecue Right. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, and seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oil. Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit as well as in backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood. Visit butcherbbq.com to stock up now. Always trust your butcher. The first Tuesday of the month brings a visit from one of the most prolific barbecue and grilling rock stars on YouTube. We race to the hotline, the Fogo Charcoal Hotline, and welcome back friend of the show, Malcom Reed. Malcom, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, Greg. How's it going in Ohio, man?
We are doing absolutely fabulous here, Malcolm. Appreciate you making time for the show. As always, we got a number of different topics to cover here this evening, so let's start to run through it so we make sure we have enough time. First and foremost, last month we were talking about the run-up to probably one of your bigger competitions during the course of the year, that being Memphis in May, special to you for a number of different reasons, but we were talking about your ramping up for it, and now it's passed, so let's look back and do a recap, if you will. So just from a high level, as compared to some years in the past recently, how does the 2019 version of Memphis in May stack up to some of the other ones that you've competed in over the last handful of years?
Oh, it was up there in every way. The weather was beautiful. I guess the worst thing about it was they rushed through the awards at the end on Saturday. We'd been there all week long, from setting up to hanging out, partying, talking to everybody we possibly can, shooting a video. We did the whole thing. I met Dave Grohl, man. How crazy was that? But at the end of it, we went to the awards and the storm was coming, so they had to evacuate the park. And I've never seen that many people get out of Tomley Park that fast. It was pretty bad.
So everything was picked up because there was imminent danger. It wasn't like they just decided to blow off the awards.
Oh, no, man. There were 65-mile-an-hour winds coming across the river, headed right to.
Wow.
I mean, it destroyed tents. I mean, we still have no idea where one of our garbage containers is. I mean, we went back the next day and they were just gone.
I mean, is it just that time of the year? You always see a lot of mud or a lot of rain for Memphis in May. Is it just the way the weather falls for that kind of event?
That's springtime in Memphis.
Yeah.
You stick around, you'll see it change, because one minute, it's beautiful, and 1 minute it's 90 degrees and you're burning up, and then the next, storms rolling in. So we're used to it, and we just go with it and have a good time.
Malcom Reed joining me here on the show, recapping Memphis in May. All right, so you did ribs this cook, right?
I did, yeah. We came in 33rd, and out of all those teams, it was pretty good. It wasn't where we wanted. We didn't get to walk the stage or anything, but we had a good cook.
How many total rib cooks were there? Do you have any idea?
I didn't look all the way down at the bottom, but usually there's somewhere between 120, 130.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's some that when you get down to the bottom, some guys don't turn in or something went wrong, or some teams are out there just to get a spot. So when you get down to those low teams, it's really that if you make the top half, it's kind of what we try to shoot for. We want to be of course, we want to be number one, but we'll take 33rd this year and reload, get ready for next year.
Yeah, well, top third. I mean, that's certainly nothing to sneeze at. Well, I mean, was there anything in the cooking process that you thought might have stymied you, or just the judges didn't like what you were turning in?
It's all in that blind box, man. I caught some bad tenderness scores in blind. Our on-site judging scores were about perfect. We caught all 10s, and I think we had a 9.6 and a 9.8 in the overall, but we carried some 9s in tenderness because of our blind box, and that's out of your hands. You never know what table it's going to hit. I will say that I kind of did a full practice run on Friday, the day before the actual contest, and everybody that tried those ribs and then tried the Saturday ribs said they thought the tenderness was better on Friday, the flavor was better on Saturday. So it's the nature of cooking ribs, man. That's why it's a challenge.
I recall Darren Worth saying that overall it's a tenderness game first. If you can nail tenderness, you can always come up with the flavor and some other stuff. So do you think if you would have had a better tenderness on the second day, you would have scored better?
Probably so. I mean, yeah, if I would have had 10s in tenderness, I'd have made finals, and I'd have been up there with my buddy Jay and had to go against him in finals. He lucked up and won the whole thing in ribs.
Yeah.
So that's Jay Durbin from Tennessee Mojo. You got to get him on here and talk to him about it, because it was surreal, man. I was down there hanging out with him, and we had a big time.
So you are 33rd overall. Tuffy Stone actually ends up winning Memphis in May. He wins the World Championship in Port Shoulder, and then him and the ribs finalists, whole hog finalists are all up there for overall, and then he ends up taking the whole thing. That's his first Memphis in May overall win.
It was incredible, man. I was so happy to see Tuffy get that, because he's got the Royal, he's got the Jack, now he's got Memphis. He may even have Houston. I don't know, but man, he's a phenomenal cook. And if he doesn't have Houston, it's going to be a race between him and Darren to see who could get all four. Well, so I know Darren he was there to get his Memphis in May.
Yeah, so that this could spin off into something completely divergent because you're a competitor and I'm just somebody that likes to talk to competitors and we can speculate and do all that stuff they do on NBA and Major League Baseball and all that other stuff as we break down certain events. But Darren has won Houston Livestock. He, up until a couple weeks ago, made no bones about really having no interest in doing Memphis in May at all. And I had asked him after he won Houston Livestock, I said, the only thing that you really have left, if we want to even entertain it, is Memphis in May. And that is such a wildly different competition, way out of his comfort zone. Houston's probably more out of his comfort zone when you look at it from a KCBS side of things, but a little bit more like KCBS. Memphis in May is a completely different thing. I think he was a little bit out of his element there. I mean, you look at his finish and you're like, oh, Darren had a terrible cook, blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand exactly what's going into Memphis in May. Certainly you do. Do you think from a percentage standpoint, Tuffy has a better shot at winning Houston before Darren would have a shot at winning Memphis?
I don't know because Darren was 11th this year in ribs. I mean, he was one away from top 10, and he had some good, a bunch of good help down there with him. So I think he's got the shot. He knows what it takes. He knows how to cook a good rib. And, but taking nothing away from Tuffy at Houston. I would think Houston would be the harder of any of them because, we guys like us that are regular competitors, we don't normally go down to Houston and cook that one. That's kind of a Texas thing. You don't see a lot of out-of-state guys traveling to go down there and cook that one because it's such a big thing in Texas. And for me, that one would be the hardest one.
Let me ask you, given Tuffy's win at Memphis in May and what he's won currently, is he the best competition cook ever right now?
I don't know about the best ever. He's definitely up there. I call Darren the GOAT because he's when you go up against him in KCBS, it's just like, man, you better chase him because he's going to be up there. Tuffy's the same way, but he doesn't cook as much competitions anymore. He's a restaurant guy. He's got a lot going on. And I don't know. I mean, if I had to pick, I couldn't pick between the two, which one's better. But I will say that I went up against Darren a bunch, and I don't know if you can count the number of times I beat him on one hand.
Yeah. All right.
Usually, if I get reserve grand, he's got me by a couple points. He's got the grand, so I bow down to him, man.
All right. So I'm going to show you a picture, and you have to tell me what the hell is going on here. Stand by for this.
All right.
What is going on here? Is that a real picture? Did you see this circulating around or what?
I didn't see that one. But I know what happened, man. There's all kinds of excitement and drinks flying and all that. I don't think it was an accident the way it looked.
No?
I guarantee you that's beer.
Wow.
I guarantee you it's beer.
It's one of the most incriminating photos I've seen recently, and to one of the best ever, no doubt about it. That's Chris Little.
When names, when people's names get to call and beers get to flying, I mean, I had stuff in one of the pictures I was in. I had stuff all over me. And I think it was a whiskey drink, but I was covered. I mean, we were, there's tears flowing, beers flying in the air. It's all fun.
Yeah, we're talking with Malcom Reed from How to BBQ Right and pitmaster of Killer Hogs Barbecue. All right, so let's move on a little bit and hit up the Hall of Fame announcements. And it was, one of those watershed moments, I think, when I had asked you, maybe it wasn't the last time, but the time before when it was just starting to bubble up and nomination time was open. You're like, I don't even really know who's in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And I think that kind of struck a chord with a lot of people going, hey, maybe we hear about it.Maybe we've never heard about it. And for the folks that are in it and that have a name in the industry and have been in it for a number of years, like yourself and a number of other folks, it kind of makes you wonder where the visibility of the Barbecue Hall of Fame is. So Wednesday this past, they announced 3 new members into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. So let me ask you this. Do you know who got inducted into the Hall of Fame?
The guy from Dreamland. I shared your post. I don't know.
Well,
him.
all right,
I've been to that restaurant a couple times going through Alabama. It's pretty good.
Oh, and you were at the one in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, in Tuscaloosa. It's kind of when we're going to the beach. We kind of make a pit stop through there.
All right, so
get some real different style. It's a different style of barbecue, man. It's that old. I don't think it's Alabama style. It's just old school. Ribs cooked in a pit, not sauced, and the whole racks of ribs. They're not cut in the St. Louis cuts, and they're really good.
Wayne Monk is also into the Barbecue Hall of Fame this year. You ever heard of Wayne Monk?
I have not.
What about CB Stubblefield?
Um, uh, Greg, I honestly don't know
Wow.
these guys.
So
I'm sorry.
Stubbs barbecue sauce. You ever seen Stubbs
I know
barbecue sauce?
Stubbs. Yeah,
So
I know Stubbs.
that's
I know the
who
bottle of Stubbs. Yeah.
that's who CB Stubblefield is. He's the guy on the Stubbs
So
barbecue sauce.
did Kraft have a hand in getting him in there, or is that earned?
It's McCormick, I think, that owns the sauce and the spice and stuff. But I think if we're going off a brand, and I believe that there's still like family that's involved to a certain degree, and I don't know how much it's owned by the Stubblefields anymore versus the bigger company, but from a name brand recognition, I think that's probably the one that most people know. I mean, I knew about Dreamland Barbecue and John Bishop just because I do the show and you hear a lot of stuff, and but it's no place that I've known personally, and I don't have any idea who Wayne Monk is other than some guy from Lexington that cooks pork barbecue because that's what you eat when you're in the Carolinas, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a loss for those names. I mean, I really was.
Well, so what would get you involved or excited to learn more about it? Anything, or do you just not really care that much? It does. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer.
You know, I mean, I care about barbecue, but as far as, you know, the Hall of Fame, the guys that I look up to are probably most of them are already in there, and you know, some people that I think they put in there that have no reason being in there. You know, you're not picking anybody out, but just I think you got to put in a lot of hard work, and you know, do your due diligence, and you know, some of these guys, I don't know how much credibility it has, man. I ain't putting any light on anything that I shouldn't, but that's the way I feel.
So are you saying that if you and Rochelle and your son were planning a family vacation and there was an existing brick and mortar barbecue Hall of Fame, what would be the interest level of your wife and son to take a portion of the day to go through the Barbecue Hall of Fame, starting with 0% and going to 2%?
Oh, it would probably be 0.
Yeah, right.
We'd more than likely go back to Cleveland.
What the hell does that mean? Cleveland is awesome.
We want to go to the Rock Hall of Fame, man.
Well, when you go to the Rock Hall of Fame, let me know, and we'll all go for the very first time, if you can believe it or not. I've never been.
That's a 10%er. I mean, you'll have to explain to me why it's in Cleveland.
What are you talking about? You don't know why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland?
Man, we've got Elvis in Memphis. I don't understand why he's the king of rock and roll. Why is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not right here?
Well, because Alan Freed, a Cleveland DJ, coined the term rock and roll right here.
There you go. Well, I didn't know that. See, I learned something coming on your show, man.
Now, you would think the people in New York City have some type of a claim to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but every other year they have all the induction ceremonies over there, and everybody whines when it's here in Cleveland. But this is the home or where rock and roll, or the term rock and roll, started. I mean, who knows where rock and roll started? You know, what can I tell you? So that's why. Okay.
I got you, man.
Right.
Hey, I learned something, man.
Hey.
It's always good to come on here and learn something.
The show's educational at the very least, entertaining at the very most. Let's talk a little bit about recipes, and the one that I wanted to talk to you about, which I'm sure you probably got some very positive notes on and some very hateful comments on, was bacon burnt ends recipe. And I remember, was it last summer when a pork belly burnt ends came out, or maybe that was 2 summers ago now, and there was a whole bunch of love for it, and then people were flaming all over. This is a little bit different twist, but talk to me a little bit about the recipe, and then we can talk about the comments that you got.
Well, it's probably the easiest thing in the world that you can cook on a smoker because the bacon's already fully cooked. Where I got this idea from, I went to a restaurant in Fort Worth. It's called Heim Barbecue, and they were on their menu, bacon burnt ends. They take a slab of bacon, cured, so it's already been cooked, and then they cut it up, cube it, do it burnt end style with a little dry rub, put it on the pit, smoke it till it's all rendered down. And then at Heim, they don't really finish it in a sweet sauce. That's something that I added to it, and I just used my seasonings and glazed it up like I did the pork belly burnt ends. And it's pretty much like thick chunks or pieces of bacon candy, and they make your eyes roll back, Greg.
So the biggest difference is that you have the cured or the saltiness from the bacon that you don't get with the pork belly per se.
That's it. It's so it's already been cured. It's already been sugar cured more than likely. I use the Wright's brand bacon. not paid by rights or anything. Funny thing, they did send me a letter with some coupons because they sold out of rights everywhere.
Oh, really?
And they wanted to say thanks for for me using their stuff in the video, and I didn't even know how to tag them in it. I mean, I couldn't even find their Instagram feed when we did it. That was something Rochelle was looking for, but I found that at Sam's Club, and they had, I think it was a 2.5 pound piece, so it was like a little quarter of a whole full slab, perfect to cut into little strips and cube, and it's a heck of an appetizer. You can't eat many of them, man. They're so rich.
Yeah.
It just sits on you. So it's really a 1 or 2 bites, and that's it.
Yeah, I found that to be the same thing with the pork belly burn ends when I made them for the first time. They looked great. They felt great, like a nice squishy. Had a little homemade barbecue sauce over the top of them. I put the first one in my mouth, and I was like, holy shit, if I have like 4 or 5 of these, I'll be really stretching it because, as you said, they are really heavy on the palate, a lot of fat. And if you don't have something to kind of cut it out with, it just kind of hangs out in your mouth.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it'll make you sick. It really will. I gave what I had left over to a buddy, and I warned him. I was like, man, you're going to want to try these. Don't do it. And he called me about 4 hours later. He said, oh man, I tried 1, then I tried 2, and I tried 3, then I ate them all, and he was hurting. He was hurting bad.
Yeah, the law of diminishing return probably applies after the 5th or 6th bacon burn end, no doubt. So what kind of negative did you get? Did you get a lot of the burn ends or only beef, or burn ends or only brisket?
You know it. I mean, that's always going to happen when you go out of the norm and call something a burn end, because for some reason people think that can only pertain to a certain thing of brisket done in Kansas City most of the time. But I mean, to me, it was just a play on it. It's kind of a faux burn end or whatever you call it. It's pork in the shape of a burn end that we do in comps. To me, when I've had burn ends at a restaurant in Kansas City, I think Joe's is where the best ones I had. They weren't even typical squares. They were kind of really the tips where they just had them cut up. The areas that kind of dry out that is going to crumble. They just cook those down, and that's what a burn end is to me. It is really a burn up end.
Yep.
But man, I've seen hot dog burn ends. I've seen people doing all kinds of stuff with them. Somebody did chicken burn ends. I mean, it's
anything you can square up and put in a smoker for a little while and cover with barbecue sauce and butter, put it back on the smoker, is going to be a burn end of some type.
That's it.
Yep.
It's going to burn up eventually, and you're just cooking it to where it melts in your mouth, whatever it is you're doing.
This coming weekend, you and Matt Pittman are putting on a class down in Waxahachie, I believe.
We're going over there Friday, and the class is actually going to be Saturday and Sunday. Matt's going to do some Texas recipes, and I'm going to do a few Memphis recipes. I'm doing whole shoulder, doing some Memphis style dry ribs, and I'm taking all the pork. I'm getting local here in Memphis, so I can really treat those guys over there to something special. I think Matt's doing brisket and the big Texas beef ribs. And then he's going to do his shrimp and grits. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff planned. I'm really excited to go because I've been, I follow Matt, and we just kind of got the meeting at Memphis in May here a few years back, and he's like, man, you want to come over to the meat church? I do it all in my backyard. He's got a new store over there or something now.
Yep.
This setup looks fantastic, so I'm hoping to learn some stuff from him while I'm there.
I am going to have a Barbecue Central Show embedded correspondent taking part.
Good.
Yeah, so he'll be on the very outskirts. It's my Oklahoma embedded correspondent, so he has recording gear, so he'll be asking you and Matt some questions and probably getting some feedback from the crowd and the class and all that stuff. So keep your eye out for David Huff, and I'm sure he'll be looking to capture some great audio from you guys. So that's this weekend. I assume that's all sold out as well.
Yeah, they sold out pretty quick, really. Matt told me that they would as soon as he puts them up on his site. So he's got such a huge following on Instagram, man. It doesn't take long.
No doubt. So if you're going to be, or if you have the tickets, you will see Malcom in Waxahachie, Texas this coming weekend, along with Matt Pittman in Matt's backyard. Otherwise, you can hit up the website, How to BBQ Right, or Killer Hogs Barbecue, and you can see this guy right here on the first Tuesday of every new month. That's Malcom Reed. Malcom, always appreciate the time, pal.
Hey, thanks, Greg. I look forward to seeing you next month, man.
You got it. There he is. Malcom Reed on the Fogo Charcoal Hotline, talking about the Memphis and May results. Good taste one day, not so good tenderness, and then the reverse results. on Saturday. So I would say if you get good tenderness, you can always crank up the flavor. But if you don't have the tenderness, it doesn't matter how good the flavor is. Dave Grohl. By the way, if you listen to the Bon Appetit podcast or whatever, Dave Grohl just recently did a podcast with those guys and talked about his love of barbecue and called out Malcom Reed by name, unprovoked. Nice. No, he did not mention my name. We'll get there. Sam the Cooking Guy coming up next. Talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grills. 3 different models to choose from. Davy Crockett, most portable. Daniel Boone, mid-size on the patio or deck. And then Jim Bowie, that's the big one. 2 different lines to choose from, the Classic line and the Prime line. Prime line, a little bit more heavy-duty on the build as far as the chassis is concerned. You got the look-through windows on the cooking chamber and in the pellet hopper. 2 separate internal meat temperature probes if you want to use those. 12-volt power technology giving you superior control over the fan. That increases the efficiency, helping reduce pellet consumption. Whole bunch of other stuff there on the website too, by the way, rubs, sauces, and so forth. So make sure that you head on over to greenmountaingrills.com and check out what they have. If you have any questions, drop them an email or give them a call. Great customer service as always. Great tech help as well, because they do have all that Wi-Fi technology and the app stuff. So if you have any questions, they're there to answer it. greenmountaingrills.com, and we are back with Sam the Cooking Guy. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com, C-O-O-K-I-N, cookinpellets.com. To purchase, you can also buy from Amazon.com as well. Cooking Pellets also has that free app, so if you want to go ahead and download that free app, you know what can happen? You can get alerted to great shipping deals and all that other stuff. Now I gotta send Sam a message. Make sure that he realizes we're back in the normal time slot. Last month, he did me a solid and moved to the second hour at 10:14. So we don't, hopefully we're not living off of the past. Past performance is not Andrew, you are not the father. Is not indicative of future results. That's my favorite sound drop. Whenever I can work in is not.
Andrew, you are not the father.
But when you listen, like if you go to YouTube, where I originally shanghaied that clip, and do Maury Povich, Andrew, you are not the father. When you stop to think about the horror that is taking place during that whole soundbite, which is great for me to work it into so we can play it during the show. But when you think about the real life events that are unfolding during that soundbite years and years ago, Maury Povich was now the expert in doing paternity reveals with folks that may or may not know who they had sex with, thereby getting pregnant from. They're having so much of the sex with so many different of the people. They can't definitively say, well, I know it's Charles or I know it's Andrew.
Andrew,
Right.
you
It's not Andrew, but it might be. I think it's Andrew. Let's go on national television and have Maury share our paternity results with us. So the lady is now super pissed because Andrew is not the father. Andrew, on the other hand, is very jubilant because Andrew is not the father.
Andrew, you are not the father.
I mean, listen to that guy. Oh, yes. My life is not changed forever. And unfortunately, while the mom is pissed and Andrew is jubilant, there is a sad story in the middle, which is the kid who apparently no one knows who his father is, because we know sure as hell it ain't Andrew.
Andrew, you are not the father.
So it breaks my heart when I stop to think about how that soundbite translates. I mean, it's fun, as I'd said in the show, but in reality, you have a woman who is heartbroken because the man she thought she was having sex with is not the father. You have the guy who is not the father and is now very happy about not being the father of this kid. But sadly, in the middle, we have a kid who doesn't know who the hell his father is. And that's what really makes me sad about that whole soundbite, is that somewhere in that time frame, some kid doesn't know who his father is because the mom can't keep track of all the people she's having sex with.
Andrew, you are not the father.
Right. Dancing around. I'm not the father. I'm not the father. Wow, all that aside, it's my favorite, one of my favorite sound bites ever. It floats between Andrew, you're not the father, and my Austin Carr, get that weak stuff out of here. It's one or the other. But you are not the father makes me sad. Sam, when you hear that soundbite, do you feel bad for the kid who doesn't know who his dad is?
I don't feel bad for anybody ever.
Man, I mean, how much sex are people having where they can't keep track of their partners and they have to go on national television to find out if it is the father or not? The person that they've chosen, which, by the way, Andrew is not the father.
Andrew, you are not the father.
I mean, he's so happy, and I want to be like, yeah, Andrew, but I'm like, damn, that kid still doesn't know who his dad is.
Yeah, come on, it's just that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so
I can't watch those shows.
No,
cannot.
But I love that one soundbite. That's why I grab it and play it whenever I can work into it. But it's not all the time. Admittedly, I overuse a bunch of them. That's not one of them, and it's always funny when I do. Although I just overused it, but nevertheless.
Admittedly, I'm a little late.
How you and I connect on different levels. Check this out. So my oldest graduates from high school. We have her commencement was a week ago Tuesday. Steve Ray from Ooltewah, Tennessee, sat in and guest hosted the show. That option is extended to you, by the way, if you ever thought about wanting to do that. But we can talk about that off air. And then we had the graduation party on Saturday. So we had like the open house at some hall we rented and cooked for. And then we had the
Did we talk about the food?
No, it was, standard fare, some pizza. I did some pulled pork. My wife did rotini, like 10 pounds of rotini and sauce, blah, blah, blah. And then we had the party at the house afterwards for the kids. No drinking because that's stupid. And out of nowhere, there were like 70 teenage kids at my house at one time. And it was raining, so everybody was inside, and it was hot as F, blah, blah, blah.
Was this the plan? Sorry.
Well, no, the plan wasn't for it to rain. The plan
was the plan for there to be 70 teenage kids?
Yeah.
Because you said out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it was planned. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like, out of nowhere, the rain came and they're packed inside instead of being outside where we originally had them planned to be. Make sense?
Yeah. I apologize for all this movement.
Out of nowhere. Nobody hears this on the podcast anyway because they just listen to it. So out of nowhere, this girl shows up. Hey, Mr. Rempe. I said, yes, whatever your name is. And she said, my boyfriend absolutely loves Sam the Cooking Guy. And he found out about you from watching Sam the Cooking Guy. Can you believe that?
We're coming full circle, my friend.
Somebody in Cleveland besides me is your biggest fan.
So, you know what? That makes me happy.
Yeah. And
that makes me happy.
She's like, he doesn't really, he's a, 17, 18-year-old kid, probably some punk, and doesn't really like to cook and doesn't really want to cook, but just loves watching Sam, just loves his whole vibe and attitude and just loves his entertainment. How about that?
I'll admit that when people come up to me and they go, they're big fans, I thank them. We chat for a second. I go, do you cook? And I'd say 60% of the time they go, yeah. I feel like I've learned to cook from you. You've made it casual and understandable. And the other 40% of the time they go, no, I don't cook. And I go, but you watch. They go, yeah. I go, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Take the watches.
I'm fine with that. I'll take the watches.
Yeah. You like the people that are gleaning the info and using it to be
100%.
Productive. And then you're
100%.
also enjoying the fact that people will watch you for entertainment. Like they like your vibe and your personality and how you're bringing it across. You could be hammering nails into wood. And if you were doing it the Sam the Cooking Guy way, they would watch.
Yeah. But here's the thing. You know what I do, what you do. Both of us believe that we're giving information. We want people to be learning from us.
Right.
But at the heart of it, Greg, really is it's entertainment.
Sure.
I've said that before about the news. You're not going to watch a nightly newscast if it's in black and white. The guy's got a flat monotone. There's no music.
Right.
You could take his twin brother, put him on the screen beside him, put it in color, put good graphics, the exact same words, with the dramatic music when it needs to be, and his voice fluctuates up and down, and you're being entertained. He could be talking about a terrible story about an earthquake and people dying or hurricanes and stuff. You're still being entertained on a certain level. It doesn't mean you always have to be laughing to be entertained, but it's got to get you. And the fact that people will watch us not for the entertainment necessarily, not for the information, I mean, but for just to be entertained, like they would watch, I don't know, the Housewives or Seinfeld or, whatever. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I feel like we owe it to the people that follow us, that watch us, to give them a product that they can enjoy.
Right.
That's simple.
That's right. Sam, the Cooking Guy, joining us here. TheCookingGuy.com, by the way, is his website. You can also subscribe to his YouTube channel, which, by the way, at last count, 837,000 plus subs, which is great. Almost at 1 million there. We're on the count to 1 million, as I saw flash
on the road
the
to
graphic.
1 million, we call it. We'll be there. We feel like we've been adding 100,000 a month, ish, give or take a couple thousand.
All right. End of the summer, then, easily.
Yeah, I'd say the way it's going right now, it should be, beginning of August. And then we're going to do something fun. We're talking about what that will be, but
all right,
we'll do something fun.
Got a email from a listener, Eric. Greg, like the exclusive BBQ Hall of Fame live cast. It was great, by the way. Yep. In other news, Sam, the Cooking Guy, oven bakes his ribs. Shake my head in his latest video, McRib Sliders. The guy's got an outdoor kitchen that kills, smokers galore, and he oven bakes the ribs. He did at least finish them on the grill. I guess it could have been worse. Boiled ribs, but come on, man. How do you please to these charges?
I consider myself, I plead guilty. 100%. I mean, I'm not going to lie my way out of it.
It's on video.
Look, I understand who my audience is.
Right.
I understand what my audience likes and does, and I understand what they have at their fingertips. Smokers are not necessarily in everybody's backyard. Charcoal Weber's, though not expensive and don't take up a whole lot of room, not everybody has.
Mhm.
But pretty much no matter where you live, you have an oven.
Right.
And my point is, I can get them where I want them beautifully in the oven. Beautifully. And then I think I put a rub on them first. Did he say that? No. He made it sound like I just threw them in a 125-degree oven.
Willy-nilly.
Not true. I put a rub on them. I roasted them. Then I took them out. They had a lot of flavor, and they were tender as F, but they were not colored beautifully. They didn't have much texture. And then I put my sauce on, and then I finished them on the grill.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, what I did is doable by 95% of my audience.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 5% that can't do it are incarcerated.
Here's what we need to tell Eric.
Yeah.
Eric, if it was me doing this, that would be a better email to send.
Break your effing balls. Talk about I got shit in my backyard, bro.
I get it.
The stuff you've got.
If I did that, send me that email all day long. But know Sam's audience, as Sam is now telling you. Sam knows his audience, and it's not necessarily the barbecue and grilling community that I am serving.
It's not. Which you could argue makes me an unusual guest to be on this show, named the Barbecue Central Show.
Correct. But as I say often, is not always a show about barbecue and grilling.
Yeah.
But food, because we all love food. Here's something that I love. Let's talk about it. We got a couple minutes, unfortunately.
That's okay. I was late.
The second, so you just released the street corn video, which I wanted to talk about, but we're not going to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
But next time,
go with the corn, people.
we'll talk about it next
good.
time for sure, because I love it's something that I was kind of just introduced to almost a year ago, so I definitely want to get into more of that. But let's talk about deep fried tomahawk steak video, or as I grew up calling it, not as grandiose as you did, fondue, if you will. So like most people call fondue or think of fondue as like bread and fruit and cheese.
Yes.
But when I grew up, we had this pot that was fired by sterno underneath, and there was Earl in there, boiling Earl, and we had cubes of meat, and we would stick them in the boiling Earl. And then we'd pull them out after a couple minutes. We'd slice them up, dip them in some compound butter that my mom made, and that was fondue for us. So seeing you do a tomahawk steak was like a huge fondue for me.
That's all I did. I did a big version of what you did.
Yeah. Wow.
Look, I got an awful lot of shit for that video.
Really?
I mean, it's got a lot of eyeballs. It's created a little controversy, or as the Brits would say, controversy. And I like to say controversy, but my wife looks at me and she goes, "You know, you're not English, right?" I go, "Yeah, okay." I got shit for a couple things. I got shit for not putting the bone in.
In the oil?
In the oil.
Well, why would you put it in the oil?
What do people? I mean, you can't have 300,000 people watch a video and not get great comments,
right?
And it's shit comments.
Yeah,
they're gonna come. You're stupid. I hate your glasses. You can't cook. You're an asshole. Who let you do this? Why you do? This is the 16th video I've watched. I hate everyone. So stop it. Stop it. It's that kind of thing. But that's the nature of social media. Everybody is a tough guy when all they have to share are their fingers typing on a keyboard. But so, I cut open, I'm slicing the ribeye. And by the way, I could have very easily bought like a regulation size ribeye. No bone,
right?
No like handle bone. Cooked it in like an inch of oil, flipped it over, would have been fine. But back to the entertainment thing.
Sure.
How exciting is that?
Right.
So I bought $20 of oil. My hands are, I don't know what's going on here. $20 in oil.
Yeah, 2 feet.
3-pound ribeye that went in, right? And it came out, I'm slicing it, and here are the comments. Never seen a more raw piece of steak. That guy for sure shit his pants the entire next day. That was freaking disgusting.
You saw that comment that I left?
Yeah. And then, like right below, that was effing raw and disgusting, was the best steak you've ever cooked. Bro, you nailed it. So there's no, my grandmother would lay it off like this. That's why they make different flavors of ice cream. Everybody has their taste. I'm just going to tell you, it was delicious. I put a rub on it first. It was fantastic. It was fun to watch.
What kind of rub did you put on it?
Oh, I did what I did. Let me think about it. Kosher salt, little brown sugar, garlic powder, pepper, maybe a little cumin.
And the oil was running in what, 350, 375-ish?
Exactly, 350.
Okay.
Knowing as soon as it hit, it was going to drop, but still it was okay.
Yeah.
It took like 8 minutes.
And so I watched it obviously, and after a couple minutes, the outside is like exactly what you're looking for. It's like totally golden brown and crispy, crunchy. You just want to lick it.
Interestingly, it didn't get too far away from that original color. Like it didn't go jet black and look burnt at all.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
You certainly didn't need to finish it on a flat top or take a torch to it. It was really pretty. And it was delicious, and the flavor was great. And yeah, then I had the people that said, "Look, hey man, if you had cooked it in beef tallow, you wouldn't have had any oil taste." I didn't taste oil. You know, that's the thing about deep frying. You know, everybody's got an opinion, but that's the thing about deep frying. If it's at the right temperature, it doesn't suck in the oil. It just like seals. Fries shouldn't taste like oil. If they do, wherever you got them from has cooked them in oil that was not nearly hot enough. We do tots at the restaurant, not tacos. And you know, when we were playing around in the beginning trying to get it right, very beginning we didn't have the oil hot enough. They came out looking okay. Took longer, came out looking okay, and you go, well, that's a nice looking tot. And you take a bite, and it was like a sponge filled with oil.
Yeah.
But if it's hot enough, not too hot, because you'll just burn the shit out of the thing, and it'll be ruined. I think people should deep fry more. I was really scared of it for the longest time, and we could do an entire show on that.
Yeah, let's.
But one of the benefits that comes from being okay with deep frying is fried fucking chicken. I'm trying not to swear on your show.
Oh,
fried chicken.
We're starting today?
Well, I'm trying to be cognizant of it because there's a couple people that don't like it. But that being said,
okay, name them.
I was asked.
Name them by name. Who doesn't like you
swearing?
Swear?
Who they are. I feel like
put their names out.
We're
courageous on the show. We're courageous on the show, Sam.
Outside of San Diego is a local city called Oceanside.
Yeah.
And they have this big event coming up, and they asked me if I would be the MC of it. I can't do it, but in the email, they didn't know how to get me, so they went to somebody that I know, and those people had a little back and forth. And in the final one, they said, you know, yes, we would love it if he could do it. Just one thing, that we can't have any swearing if he's okay with that. Well, of course I'm okay with that.
Of course.
And I'm a big boy. Don't have to swear.
Right.
I don't have to.
When the lights are on and the money's getting paid, you can turn off the swear meter.
That being said, I was on our local Fox channel one morning a couple of years ago.
I heard it, and you said the F word, by the way.
No.
Oh, yes, you did.
I said the S word.
Yeah, right.
The S word.
Sorry, the S word.
And the anchor and I just did this with each other and then just kept going. And
wait, wasn't there another one where you did say the F word and they dumped it and you said they didn't? Or they said you did, but you said you didn't?
That was radio.
Yeah, radio. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You should be able to. I mean, are we not adults now? Come on. Canada, you can say, you'll hear shit on TV, I think, all throughout the day.
Yeah.
And the F word, I think, is actually okay after 9 o'clock at night or something like that.
Yeah, but guess what?
Where it's not Canada.
Yeah, you're damn right. You want to swear, or you want to swear on television? Go move back to Canada. That they kicked you out.
Adults.
Yeah, of course.
Can't we?
I swear in front of my kids sometimes.
I emceed the rabbi of my synagogue. I'm not a particularly religious man, but the rabbi and I have become friendly over the past few years. It was his retirement gala Saturday night, and I was the MC. And there were a few swear words in there, and it was welcome. You know, the funny thing is a well-placed swear word, and I'm not saying like C sucker or the C word, anything like that. I'm just saying like the occasional shit or maybe F. I didn't use the F word, but I did say shit a couple times. It went over well. I also told this really great joke about foreskins that I'll tell you one day.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that during the deep fry segment.
I said to somebody, I have a joke about foreskins. Do you think I can tell it? And the woman that was about 70 looked at me and she goes, "We're all Jewish, of course."
Of course.
It's an important part of our
yes,
heritage.
it's a whole event.
She absolutely greenlit the joke for me, and I'm going to tell you, it went over really well in that crowd.
Okay. Well, you can tell me off air, and then we'll figure if we want to release it next month.
It is not a problem for anybody.
Go to Sam the Cooking Guy's YouTube channel and get him to 1 million subscribers. ASAFP. Sam the Cooking Guy is here the first Tuesday of the month. TheCookingGuy.com is his website. Otherwise, nottacos.com is the restaurant.
Hey, let me ask you one question.
Yeah.
I got a permanent Tuesday spot.
Yes.
Because who isn't here? Let's talk shit about them.
There was nobody here in this segment. This was an open segment that I would book.
I was trying to create a little controversy, and apparently I failed it.
I'm sorry, but it is made specifically for you. It's made for you.
Can I encourage you and your viewers / listeners to adopt the term controversy?
Controversy?
Instead of controversy.
All right.
Let's see if we can make that a thing.
Controversy, and we will continue to wrap our ribs in aluminum foil. How about that?
Oh, I don't say that. That sounds ridiculous.
English people say aluminium, by the way.
By the way, for those of you that are watching that have no grills or smokers, ribs on a baking sheet, little white vinegar, cover them tightly with foil, 350 for 75 minutes. Then take them out, then sauce them and throw them on the barbecue if you have one. If not, crank that oven to broil and sauce them, and just be careful and watch them. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.
Well, we went right from knowing our audience to not knowing our audience. Very good.
I'm here for the people.
Very good.
I'm the people's cook.
All right, second Tuesday of the month, you will see him. It is Sam the Cooking Guy. Sam, always appreciate the time, pal.
By the way, quickly, can we catch up later privately about Mamet this morning on Stern?
Yes, of course.
That was one of the best episodes of anything.
We will. All right. I'll talk to you, pal. All right. There he is, Sam the Cooking Guy. Right there on the Fogo Charcoal hotline. I believe we have already pressed into the second hour. And I have plenty to get to. So
this is Brian Mayer.
Okay, Brian Mayer.
Hot Sauce Weekly. And you are listening to BCRN, all barbecue and grilling all the time.
Okay, and that was Sam the Cooking Guy. Again, his website, thecookingguy.com, and we will transition into the second hour, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. Thanks again to Sam, the cooking guy, for joining me last segment, talking a little bit about the deep fried in oil tomahawk steak that is on his YouTube channel right now. I believe it's the second most recent. The ELOTE, or street corn, is the most recent. He did hot Cheeto ELOTE. But he was, I don't know if he just forgot. Looked like he was trapped back in that bathroom again. Not in his normal Emmy-laden studio. John Dawson weighing in on the instant chat. Remps, rando question. What happened to Scott Roberts? I've been asking that question for a year now. Actually, when we did the first round of the Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame, as you might recall, John, I put Scott Roberts in as a recurring guest. He was once a month the official Barbecue Central Show sauce and rub reviewer. And he did a very solid, thorough job of doing, typically it was 2 rubs and a sauce. Sometimes it was the other way around. But did a write-up and had where you could buy it and how much weight was in each particular jar. He would, when we really got the video honed in, he would hold up a bottle so you could see what it was. And he would give you tasting notes. Then we actually came up with our own rating system. And he would give it a backyard barbecuer or an oven baker was like the worst. And Grand Champion obviously was the highest rating. Reserve Grand would be your second highest. But a lot of them rated out somewhere in the middle, maybe a little bit better than average. But we had our stinkers as well. And he did it for years and years. He was obviously also our go-to expert in the world of fiery foods, because that's really more where Scott's name was made, was in the fiery foods section. And he had quite the palate that could take plenty of heat. And then I was lining him up for a segment, and he said, hey, I got to put this off. And then, all of a sudden, he sent me an email and said, not only can I not reschedule, I'm not going to do the show anymore. And I was like, well, what happened? So quickly, I'm going through the mental Rolodex and trying to figure out, what did I do to offend Scott? I know I had to do so. It's always me. Relationships and me span as long as it takes for me to figure out, knowingly or unknowingly, how I'm going to offend you to the point where you don't want to be my friend anymore. It just happens all the time. Some of my friendships have been longer because I haven't found that line. And I don't go seeking it on purpose, but inevitably I cross it and I offend. Ask our good friend Diane Me. Remember Diane? Loyal Centralite for years. Then we institutionalized horse meat in 2017, 2018, 2019, and she put a self-imposed ban on the show. She's like, as long as you do horse meat, I'm out of the show. So that's just how my relationships work. I will offend you at some point, and you will not be my friend anymore. Luckily, through a lot of talking, I've come to grips with that and said, hey, I will just enjoy the friendships as long as they remain. And then when I unknowingly offend you and you stop being, I will have looked back on that time as being a quality portion of my life. And I will hopefully find a new friend who I can hang out with until I offend them. And it's worked out for 44 years, almost 45 years. Anyway, back to Scott Roberts. So I started putting out feelers, and he used to appear on some other shows, and I was getting a lot of the same, Scott's not doing my show anymore, no reason, just said he was stepping out of it. He got away from all of the hot food stuff as well as the fiery food stuff. And then I started really doing some research on his social media, and I have no way of getting 100% proof unless it was with having Scott on the show for me to interview and ask him. But from what I can ascertain through social media posts, one day or 1 week or 1 month, he was Scott Roberts' ex-way, and then a day transpired and he became Scott Roberts' devout religious guy. All like Bible thump, Jesus, the whole 9 yards, the quoting scripture, and it took over his entire social media platforms and a lot of preaching. So it's something changed with him religiously. And whatever that religious is, some Christian base, I don't know if it was Catholic or whatever, born again maybe, who knows. The religion and the show were not to mix. So that's why he is no longer on the show. It's not because I don't want him on the show. I thought he was a great asset. He was very professional. He brought a lot of great insight and personal opinion. He was not afraid to say, hey, to me, this sauce blows. Hey, to me, this sauce is really good, and you should go buy. And that's what the whole purpose of it. There were so many sauces and rubs out at that point that if you had some discretionary funds that you wanted to throw around and try, you don't want to waste your money on some crap. And if you could get somebody that you trusted, like we did with Scott, who could give you at least an informed opinion, plus we knew what his palate was like, you would be able to say, well, that's something I really might want to try then. You weren't just shooting in the dark. But he's gone away. And now he's not re-showing back up or what have you. So, John, long-winded way of me giving you the background on what has happened to Scott Roberts. What has happened is he has become more religious than I ever knew he was, and that has taken over and usurped the Barbecue Central show appearances. Still to come on this show tonight via the Fogo Charcoal Hotline is Lee and Michael Quessenberry, or as I like to call him, Mark Quessenberry. Lee and Michael will be joining me. We'll be talking about Jim Quessenberry Barbecue. Also, closing out the show, I will be joined by Jonathan Bird from Dreamland Barbecue. So stay tuned for those interviews here in just a couple minutes. Don't forget to follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram and Twitter /BBQ Central Show on Facebook. Episode 75 is coming up this Friday on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show, and we journey back to 2013 of June, the first time that we ever smoke with Big Mo Cason, one of the most recognizable figures in live fire today. You can hear what it sounded like when we first chopped it up on the show. Some good competition talk, of course, and really great brisket tips from back in 2013. So take a listen to that when it shows up in the podcast feed on Friday, and you will be able to see what has held over that 6-year period and what you're like, man, I would never do that to my brisket at this point. All right, let's go ahead and get caught up before we get to Lee and Michael. See, I made a joke, and now I'm going to call him Mark. Sorry, Mark. Let me call you Mark now, so I trick myself into calling you Michael. Southside Market and Barbecue. Attention, folks in the business of barbecue. Established in 1882. Southside Market and Barbecue, the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations. Offering premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S. From food trucks to multi-chain restaurants, Southside Sausage can be on your menu too. All meats processed in our on-site USDA-inspected facility. A trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. Wholesale options available, shipping nationwide via FedEx or through food service distribution like Sysco, U.S. Foods, or Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can also follow your recipe or help you develop something brand new from scratch. Private label opportunities also available. Visit SouthsideMarket.com for more information. You can get 10% off all of your online ordering at southsidemarket.com when you use code BBQ Central. One word, lowercase, BBQ Central. 10% off your entire online order. And that's not just good for the first time. It's good for each and every time you go to southsidemarket.com. Again, 10% off with code BBQ Central at checkout. Lee and Michael Quessenberry coming up out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield. Are you signed up for the Smokin' with Smithfield National Barbecue Championship? Registration is free. Sign up today. Hit smokinwithsmithfield.com for all the details. Also, if you're ready to find out where you rank against all the competitive barbecue teams across the country, you visit the same website, smokinwithsmithfield.com, to check out your rank on the Smokin' with Smithfield National Barbecue Championship. My guests in the second hour are here to share a barbecue tale that you may or may not be familiar with. Where does barbecue of all forms and fashions come from, and who are those characters that color the stories and events back in the day? Are you familiar with the name Jim Quessenberry? If the answer is no, then we'll fix that right now. Let's go ahead and race to the Fogo Charcoal Hotline and welcome in Lee and Michael Quessenberry. Gents, thanks for taking the time out to join this evening. How are you?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we have you two here, but let's first start with a look back as it all started. So for the folks that aren't familiar with Jim Quessenberry, and as I had mentioned over the last couple of weeks, as I had got my hand on that short list looking at the 9 potential Hall of Famers that would end up being the 3 Hall of Famers that just got in Wednesday, I didn't know a couple names. Jim Quessenberry was one of those, and then I did some research on the internet and found out that there was some competing going on in the early 80s. There was a barbecue sauce. There were some titles to be had. But being the sons of Jim, and we can start with Lee or Michael, whoever wants to start, a little background about your dad and, I guess, his interest in live fire cooking in general.
Hey, we got a little bit of a thunderstorm going on here, so
great.
If we have some crashes and some bangs, it's par for the course.
No problem. That's right.
I'm Lee, and my brother to my right is Michael. I'm the oldest of the two, and we grew up in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, about an hour west of Memphis, and when we weren't farming, we spent our spring most of the time either at Silky O'Sullivan's or in Tom Lee Park at Memphis and May. And that was way back before it got huge. As a matter of fact, my brother and I both would play flag football with other kids from other teams. That's how small Memphis and May was at the time, which is insane what it's grown to be now.
Well, I remember hearing or when I was doing some reading that at one point Memphis and May took place under one tent. Is that real?
As far as I know, that's what I've heard. It was in the Orpheum Theater parking lot. And Dad cooked in from the 2nd through the 16th annual competition. The first year was, literally under one tent. First several years, I think.
So was your dad somebody that grew up around live fire as well, just because of the region that you guys are from, or how did he get involved in it?
As a child, my great grandparents and my grandparents, they had an Angus farm in a little town called Bird Eye, Arkansas, and all the farm hands and people would gather around like a big community, and they would dig a pit and roast a pig or whatever. And my grandmother, and then my dad too, when he was growing up, would go down there and just learn how to cook, all that kind of stuff. And so he basically learned from childhood, from just seeing and doing. And then later on, he really started to refine his skills in the kitchen with my grandmother, and probably lots of aunts and uncles that shared recipes as well.
Michael, when you look back and kind of remember your dad, do you remember him being a grill master and cooking outside a lot?
Oh yeah, for sure. Since I was old enough to stand, I would stand on a chair beside the stove and help him make his barbecue sauce or whatever it was that we were cooking. And we grew up on cooking on the Weber kettles. Weber sponsored Dad at one time, and I'm a big fan of Weber's. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't really, at the time, I didn't think about it about Dad winning a championship or anything like that. It was just more a dad bonding with his son and cooking,
Do you think that you guys picked up, or do you guys have an active interest in cooking yourselves, or is this more of or the way that JimQuisenberry.com is set up right now, is that just more of a business venture to carry on a legacy?
Both. Yeah, both of us went into the computer science field. We're both programmers at a local lumber company here in town in Jonesboro, Arkansas. But we both have a passion in cooking, as well as a passion in the business of, sharing stories about our dad and continuing on our barbecue legacy.
Lee, when we talk about like business of barbecue, and when Michael mentioned about your dad making sauce and stuff, that's obviously something that's for sale on the website. That's JimQuisenberry.com. Is that a recipe that he was using in competitions that he was entering and winning, or just something that was like a guarded secret that you're now revealing to the general public?
It's been a long time tradition. That sauce actually won in the Kansas City, what was the name of the competition? It's the same one we just recently won third place for our mustard-based sauce in I believe it's World Championship of Barbecue.
Is that like the American Royal or something like that?
Yeah, the best sauce on the planet, I think is what it's called now. But Artie Davis, we found an article where the original sauce that started it all, actually won the top prize in a Mid-South category in 1989. So it's been around for quite some time. We've been fortunate to basically uncover the Rosetta Stone. My dad's handwriting was terrible, but he and my brother had this handwritten codex of things written on the back of some cardboard that I didn't understand. They teamed up on me. I was the older brother, so Dad and Michael teamed up on me quite a bit, and they used to tell me I was adopted. Like that is a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hardly look anything alike. I mean, you had to be adopted.
Right.
Jeez,
But yeah,
Mike.
the website came about as a school project, actually, when we were still in college. Its first iteration, we were tasked with building it was for software engineering. We were tasked with building a business software. And so Michael and I actually built the website as a 2-semester long project. And it's been upgraded and changed over the years. That's been almost 10 years ago.
Yep.
But yeah, the business it's like a hobby / sounding board for technology when we want to try out new things. And Dad was really into computers as well. He never went to school formally for it, but you know, he got us involved in that. He knew that that was where the future was. It wasn't going to be in farming or competition barbecue. It was for him. It was like, let me teach my kids something that's going to be valuable. And then, so we've fulfilled that. We're both successful in our own right in our careers. And then we do barbecue more or less for fun. We'd like to grow it, obviously, like any aspiring entrepreneur would. But yeah, that's pretty much how it came to be. It was just Michael and I kind of did it out of necessity. We got some good grades and started selling sauce. We were already selling sauce to pay for beer money in college, no labels on it. And so we were like, yeah, let's make a real business out of it. So about the last 5 years, we've been pretty serious. Like we got everything taken care of in terms of forming an LLC and partnership and all that good stuff. And so yeah, 5 years, beer money turned into something that I think, you know, we make a pretty little penny once in a while. It's not going to make me drive a Lamborghini or anything anytime soon, but we can reach for the stars, I guess.
Michael, from a flavor profile perspective, can you paint a picture of how the sauce tastes and how it's best to use?
Yeah, sure. So we now have 4 sauce flavors. Lee talked a little bit about our original sauce. Dad actually came up with it in a dream. This was like, I was too young to remember this, but he was actually cooking briskets one night for friends, and he had been up and down all night checking his fire. And one of the times that he had laid down to sleep, he had a dream about the barbecue sauce and got up and started making a batch in the kitchen and woke my mother up. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I had this dream about this barbecue sauce, and if I don't make it, then I'm going to forget it." And so that's how the original recipe came to be. It is, we like to call it like a mix mash between like a Kansas City, little Memphis, but also a little Carolina as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice balance between a thin vinegar sauce and a like a Kansas City, like a sweeter sauce as well, but also with a little Memphis mixed in. We call it kind of an Arkansas thing, you know. I guess being in that area, you're kind of like, it's the melting pot between all of the different barbecue areas. But yeah, it's more of a finishing sauce than it is a cooking sauce. So that's our original sauce. And from that, we developed a hotter version. We've got a hot version of that. And then there are 2 newest recipes, Lee and myself and our business partner came up with. I was a big fan of Big Bob Gibson's white sauce.
Right.
And so we made our own white sauce. The thing about white sauce is a lot of people are like, white barbecue sauce? And they either love it or hate it. But, there's a lot of people that like it. And our newest recipe is our mustard-based gold sauce. It's kind of a South Carolina, Georgia take on barbecue sauce. And that's the one that Lee was telling you about. We just won 3rd place in the mustard-based sauce category of the American Royal.
Lee, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to jump in there for a second. So,
I was, we had a little flicker on the lights there, and I didn't know if my phone was actually still on.
Oh yeah, no problem. So, so you have the 4 sauces, and you're actively trying to get them in the market and all that. So, are you mostly attacking retail or mostly attacking online, or what's the growth trajectory before we talk about the Hall of Fame part?
Sure. We mostly were regional in grocery stores, retail. Obviously, we would like to expand our retail online, just because for us it's a little bit bigger margin. We're not having to split hairs with wholesale and all that stuff to our vendors. Our go-to-market plan really is just to continue to serve our area where we can distribute. Michael, me, Jeff, Aaron, sometimes Crystal, sometimes whoever's got a place in their car and lives closest to one of the grocery stores are literally the delivery people. Like, we distribute to just about 25 stores, and we do it all ourselves. We've got a few shortcuts here and a few little swap meet type, hey, I'll trade you some sauce if you can carry it down to Little Rock type thing going on with a few milk trucks and all kinds of stuff. We got this crazy network of people that we're like, hey, we're running low down in Little Rock. Michael and I aren't going to be able to make it. If we send 3 cases with you, can you go stock the Little Rock store? And they're like, sure, yeah. And we've got a coworker that lives in a little town called Walnut Ridge, and she's been a blessing to make sure that our shelves are dusted off and that kind of stuff. So it's more than just the two of us, and it's really a lot of labor of love. We enjoy that part, but man, online would be a dream for us because Jeff, our partner, is based in Memphis. That's where we warehouse everything. And over in Memphis, he's, it's the FedEx hub is there, U.S. mail, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes in and out of there. So we luck out on shipping, and it's really quite wonderful to see people come in through the website that we've never heard of before. Like, I don't know, that's not one of Dad's friends, cousins, brother-in-laws or something. It's not like somebody my mom knew or whatever. That's a lot of fun. We enjoy that, and we both cook in contests from time to time. Michael and I think we realized early on that that's going to be something that we continue to do. Our first competition was in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a good story. This is a good segue into the Hall of Fame. Our first competition was in Nashville, Tennessee, in 1989. I was 7 years old. Michael was 5. And we stayed in a hotel. It was close to Opryland, which is not there anymore. We stayed in a hotel, and my dad had bet me. We were cooking a whole hog competition, but my brother and I had a team called the Little Ribbers, and we entered the ribs competition on a custom-sized Weber. It wasn't a Smoky Joe. It was a full-size Weber with, my dad had fabricated short legs for it, so that Michael and I could cook on it.
Right.
We just lit the fire and let it go, and then I think about 20 minutes before turn-in time, we stole some of my dad's ribs off his competition cooker and stuck them on the grill. Turned them in. We got 5th place.
Oh.
We beat my dad. He got 6th place
with the same ribs.
And keep in mind, this is a Memphis and May style contest, so we had to do like presentation and seat the judges. So I'm like 7 years old, gifted gab, and I'm like telling them about this. Yeah, we killed our hog. We bought it from Mennonite farmers in Fayette County, Tennessee, and like just this long list of BS. Some of it's true. Fayette Packing Company is where we usually buy our meat, and I do believe that one of the owners there, one of the farmers, is a Mennonite. But we were talking about how the hog was fighting another hog to spare his life and all. BS a mile long. That's how you have to do Memphis to May, man. You got to BS the judges and then show them a good time. But anyway, we that was when we knew, like, we're always going to do competitions. We've done Jonesboro's downtown. It's the state championship of Arkansas. It's been a KCBS contest for almost 10 years, I think, 9-10 years. We won 1st place overall in pulled pork in the inaugural contest. And then we got 3rd in chicken last year. So, we're not like a big team, but we can still get in there and mix it up and occasionally surprise ourselves. Most of the time when we win, we'd have no idea how we did it. Because Michael and I are always trying new things. We're always trying new recipes. And so that's kind of where we got it was my dad. Half the cookbooks, I read through them and I'm like, that's bull crap. He didn't do that. Like, he made that up on the fly. Somebody asked him, hey, you got a good rib rub or something, and he would just be like, yeah, I do this, this, and this, and they'd write it down. And Michael and I can read through some of the cookbooks and know, I don't think he ever did that, or that one's close, or whatever. So it's really quite fun, and that's who you were dealing with back then.
Michael, when you get the news that Jim had been put on the short list of 9, so 3 of those 9 were going to be going into the Hall of Fame, I mean, what kind of a reaction did you have to that, and did you think that there was a pretty decent shot that he might get in?
Well, it was a. Will you meet up?
Sorry.
So I found out. I went to Memphis in May this year. I always like to go and visit. Me and Artie Davis keep in touch, and he had let me know that he was going to be there this year judging. So I went over and, I had a good Friday night just hanging out. And then I met Artie on Saturday, and he took me over to meet Tuffy Stone. And this was before they had announced that, Tuffy won overall.
Mm-hmm.
Tuffy, I enjoyed your interview with him. Super nice guy, super humble. And Artie was like, hey, Tuffy, this is Michael Quessenberry. This is Jim Quessenberry's son. And he's like, I know exactly who he is, because Lee and I both look just like our dad.
Yeah.
But he was like, I know exactly who he is. I voted for him in the Hall of Fame. I voted for Jim in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And at that point, I was like, wait, you voted for him? Because, I knew that he had to have made finals to be voted for by Tuffy. I was like, so he made the finals? He's like, yeah, he sure did. I voted for him. And I didn't know the short list then, but I was just like blown away, I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I started researching and Googling, and I saw your bit where you were announcing that Meathead had also made it to the short list, and I listened to your podcast, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Dad made it. That's so cool, So I'm just elated. I'm, happy to be on the show. I'm glad that we connected with each other.
Do you think, what do you think his reaction would have been if he would be around? Was that something that would jazz him up, or is he more of a humble guy?
Yeah, I think it would excite him. He definitely was a humble guy, but he was also I don't know if you've read some of the cookbooks and things that people have written about him. He was a larger than life kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was a kind of guy that always liked to have fun, and so I think he would have been pretty excited about it, but humble as well. He did it because he loved to cook, he loved to barbecue, and he loved for people to have fun. He was a big prankster, There's actually an excerpt in America's Best Barbecue that Artie wrote about how when Dad was in Memphis in May, their Porter John had one of those little vents that you could take off of it, and he put a bullfrog in there when the women would go in to use the bathroom, and they would go running out screaming, because there's a huge frog in there. And the story goes in the book that there was one lady that was, pretty Southern lady, and Southern in the sense that she probably did some frog gigging in her time.
Uh-oh.
And she did not scream. And when she came out of there, she said there was a bullfrog in there, and the poor little sucker jumped to his demise.
Oh my God. Well,
so yeah, that's the kind of guy he was, and we're just trying to carry on that kind of legacy and have fun cooking and have fun barbecuing. If you get a chance, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's a video of me meeting Big Mo Quessenberry. So his team put me up to, they were like, hey man, you want to make $20? And I was like, that's kind of scary. I don't know. But let me hear you out. And they said, all right, so here's what you got to do. We're going to let you meet Big Mo. And we're going to tell him you're his biggest fan. And when we hand him the Sharpie marker, we want you to raise your shirt over your head and try to get him to sign your chest.
How'd that work out?
So I said, hey, man, keep your money. That's fine. I don't need the money. Let's do this. So I did it. It's on Facebook.
Oh.
It was.
Did he sign it? Or did we got to go watch and see?
Actually, he didn't sign my chest, but he signed my shirt.
Got it. Yeah, nice. Yep.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's funny. Go check it out. The guy, Chu, that was on his team, his name's Antonio Chu. He told me that Big Mo told him that was the highlight of Memphis in May this year for him. So,
well, you did it. And we're talking with Lee and Michael Quessenberry. The website, by the way, jimquessenberry.com. You can buy all the sauces there. And guys, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes and getting to let us know a little bit about your dad and how he kind of came up through the barbecue ranks and things that he had done here. So we have a little bit better connection of story to, just a name being on a short list for the BBQ Hall of Fame. And certainly appreciate you guys taking the time out tonight.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well,
hey,
one quick thing.
Yep.
The website has if you want to hear more stories, we've got 4 or 5 years worth of stories that I've written and my brother have written on our blog there that are highly entertaining. And you can get kind of a feel for, which I know there's a lot of jokes now, but you can get a real good feel for like how the 80s were in terms of like barbecue contests and how those guys were some clowns. It was a lot of fun. And I wanted to just say thank you for having us on.
You got it. Guys, I appreciate it so much.
Hey, Greg.
All right.
One more thing real quick.
Yep.
I was just wanting to let I just wanted to let you guys know that we have a giveaway on our website. We're giving away a gift basket with our old labeling that our dad created and also a t-shirt. I don't have it up yet. I will have it up by the time the podcast comes, gets posted.
And that's going to be on the Facebook page?
It'll be on our website,
okay.
quessenberry.com/giveaway.
/giveaway. All right, I'll go ahead and drop that in the post show notes as well. And once again, it's Lee and Michael Quessenberry. Thanks so much, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us, Greg.
You got it. There they are. The Brothers Quiz, letting us know about their dad, Jim. And it sounds like the 80s were insane competition. I think Ray Lampe has alluded to that in the past. Some of the other guys that I've had on this show. But, yeah, it sounds like the 80s was a Wild West, if you will. All right, we will be right back with Dreamland Barbecue. Jonathan Bird, I'll talk to you quickly about the barbecue guru. Believing that outdoor cooking should be easy and fun, because it can be, especially with the Monolith Barbecue Guru Edition grill. The Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. This means smarter control, greater freedom with automatic temperature control. Easily choose your cooking time and temperature. Let the Monolith do the work of a sous chef or a barbecue pitmaster. With minimal effort, you now have oven-like precision at the grill. You can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. Visit the website, bbqguru.com, or call them with questions. 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology, and we are back with Jonathan Bird right after this.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. All right, as you are well aware, this past Wednesday, we announced the 2019 BBQ Hall of Fame class. Some names you may have heard, others maybe not. If you are into barbecue in Alabama, specifically Tuscaloosa, then you know about Dreamland. The original founder, John Bishop, was inducted into the Hall of Fame last week. And here to tell us more about the man, the restaurant, the business is the director of marketing at Dreamland. Let's race to the Fogo Charcoal Hotline and welcome first-time guest to the show, Jonathan Bird. Jonathan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you just fine. Thanks so much for making the time and telling us a little bit about John and Dreamland and all that good stuff. So before we get into that, if you don't mind, maybe just a little bit of background on you, if it's like food service, generally speaking, is something that you've been in industry-wise, or if, you know, this is a first foray into some type of live fire experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, again, thanks so much for having me and having Dreamland on.
Yep.
Like you said, my name is Jonathan. I started off working as a dishwasher at a pizza restaurant back in college. Obviously fell in love with the industry because I'm still here today. You know, I spent 10 years with a franchisee that owns several full-service pizza restaurants. After college, I just kind of grew through management and eventually wound up spending the last 5 years of a 10-year stint with that company as their director of marketing. Loved the role, got the opportunity to hop on the Dreamland team, and that's where I have been for about the past year. So, you know, coming from a pizza restaurant, I thought the fanaticism and rivalry between pizza restaurants and their respective fans was pretty crazy, but I pretty quickly found out that it's nothing compared to what I've seen in the barbecue world. So that's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, few rival the passion that barbecue elicits. So from a personal interest level, aside from what you're doing with Dreamland, do you have a particular affinity for live fire? Will we be catching you barbecuing at home and stuff like this, or not so much?
Oh man, if they let me near those pits in the restaurant, that would be the day HR hands me my papers. I would burn all of the ribs. But no, I enjoy cooking. I'm just not good at it. But you know, one of the things that we hear pretty often, you know, just touching on your you know, the affinity for fire and smoke. You know, the pits. The smell and aroma and the smoke that you know, our pits emit at each of our locations is often you know, one of the biggest draws for people who are you know, around the restaurant. So I'm obviously a fan as well, and you know, close often come home smelling like that hickory wood, but I'll take that smell all day. So no worries on my end.
Jonathan Bird joining me, Director of Marketing for Dreamland Barbecue. The website, dreamlandbbq.com, if you want to check it out. So let's go ahead and back out for a second, Jonathan, if you can give us a fairly brief history on Dreamland Barbecue and how Big Daddy was actually able to get it up and running and how he started down its road of success initially.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of history, and I'll do my best to you know, make it fairly brief. But you know, John, Big Daddy, as we call him, Bishop, was born in Tuscaloosa in 1921. He actually spent much of his early years as a brick mason, but you know, over time he decided he wanted to start his own business with his family and his community. He purchased some property in a neighborhood called Jerusalem Heights in Tuscaloosa. The business he initially wanted to open was actually a mortuary.
Oh.
So, obviously that changed, and we're glad it did. But I think the thing that's really cool is the story we have, and that story is the reason, we're a barbecue restaurant rather than a mortuary today. So Mr. Bishop purchased that property in that neighborhood in Tuscaloosa, and he said that one day while he's walking the property, trying to make sure that that's what he wanted to do. That was the business he wanted to open. God whispered in his ear and told him he needed to open up a restaurant instead, and to do it right on that property that he purchased that sat right in front of his home. After being told that a few times, he got with his family, his wife, Miss Lily, and they heeded the advice. So basically, friends and family members, and they built that restaurant themselves. Opened the doors in 1958 and called it Dreamland. So they initially sold everything from fried fish to hamburgers, and obviously the ribs. The ribs were obviously the star of the show. Word about them got out to Tuscaloosa residents and at the Alabama football coaching staff, and they would bring in their friends who were in town with recruits anytime they visited. Those friends would bring friends every time they visited. So the whole thing just really quickly snowballed, to be honest. And soon they had lines out the door for the ribs, and they had to whittle down that menu pretty quickly. Pretty much from the get-go, within a couple years of opening, the menu was down to just ribs, a bag of chips, and then bread and white bread served with our barbecue sauce, which we still do today. It's one of the things we're known for.
From a seasonings perspective and a preparation, from what I've read, it's a very simple process, maybe only salt on those ribs.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the very last part of your comment.
I said from what I was reading from a seasoning and preparation standpoint, it was all pretty simple, including maybe just salt on the ribs and nothing else?
Right, yeah, we can't give away everything, but it is a simple process. We're not low and slow. We do everything over and over in open flame hickory wood-fired pit. And we've been around for over 60 years now, but the techniques that Mr. Bishop and his wife, Miss Lily, and their family developed, we still do the same thing today.
So I'm asking you to speculate here, of course, but how do you think that John would have reacted to being inducted into the BBQ Hall of Fame last week?
I haven't, Mr. Bishop passed away in 1997. I think I would have been about 10 at the time. So I didn't really get a chance to meet him, but, the excitement of that nomination or that impending induction has generated. His family is super excited. So I guess to answer your question, I'll just draw from a conversation I had with his daughter, Jeanette, who's still around today. So if you've seen pictures of Mr. Bishop, you'll know that he's a large guy who's known for being quiet and humble. But Jeanette, whenever she talked about how she thought he would feel, she mentioned how her father was viewed as a tough guy, not a man of a lot of words. Mm-hmm. But she said behind the scenes that he was, anytime he won an award or really got any sort of critical acclaim for his restaurant, whether it was a national award, national write-up, or just like kind words from a regular he'd had for a few decades, behind the scenes that he would be reduced to tears. So, that I can't imagine knowing that this sort of honor would be any exception to that. So, I'm positive he would be proud. I can tell you, his family is incredibly proud. We as a company are proud. Tuscaloosa as a city is proud, and just really all of our fans and fans of Alabama barbecue are proud. So we're very, very excited.
Is there a plan in place at this point to have somebody from Dreamland go down and accept or be inducted on his behalf?
Oh, we haven't discussed it specifically. This is all fresh, but I don't know. We might have to rent a bus or something. From what it sounds like, as excited as everyone
Big
is.
crowd going down,
So
right?
Exactly. But we'll have some sort of representation there. Again, it's just such a huge honor, and I know his family is fired up and ready to go. I get a text message, every other day from his daughter asking if there are any more details that have been released, as far as the time and just sort of all the specifics for the event. So we'll be there for sure.
So aside from that flagship location in Tuscaloosa, I know there was a decent amount of growth over the years, and the current CEO, I think her father was the first one to take an additional location outside of Tuscaloosa, and the growth maybe spawned from there. But how many locations are currently under the Dreamland umbrella?
Absolutely. So, we just had that one location in Tuscaloosa for a couple, a little over 3 decades. One of Dreamland's many fans was a man by the name of Dr. Bobby Underwood, who we call around Dreamland. We call him Doc. He actually passed away a couple of years ago, but he actually developed a friendship with Mr. Bishop, and knowing Mr. Bishop took pride in his ribs and his product and his brand. Dr. Underwood kind of worked, asked him if he'd be interested in kind of sharing that joy that he spread, to other markets. So with Mr. Bishop's blessing, Dr. Underwood and his family opened up our second location in 1993 in Birmingham. Soon after, we opened up in Mobile, Alabama, then Roswell, Georgia, which is North Metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
And now we've got 10 locations today. So our CEO is actually the daughter of Dr. Bobby Underwood. So, while we've grown, we still have that small, almost family-run business type of feel, just, given the ties that we have to the restaurant historically, just at the highest levels of our organization.
Is there a continued look to grow, or is 10 the right number at this point?
Oh, I think like anything else, it all depends on the opportunity. We don't want to grow for the sake of growing. We want to make sure that we're taking care of all of our guests in our markets, first. And so that's our focus every day and always will be. We often get requests to expand, but obviously, we want to do right by Mr. Bishop and his family and Dr. Underwood and all of our employees and fans across the state and the country, and make sure that when we do expand, we can put out something that everyone's proud of.
We are talking with Jonathan Bird, who is the Director of Marketing for Dreamland Barbecue, and he's giving us a little bit of a history lesson on John Big Daddy Bishop, who was just recently inducted in the 2019 Barbecue Hall of Fame, along with Wayne Monk and CB Stubblefield. Jonathan, there's also a fairly large online consumer presence as well, so if you can't get down to Tuscaloosa for ribs or some other stuff, you can go online and actually have those shipped across the country.
That's absolutely right. Yep, we sell our ribs and our barbecue sauce, which are our 2 heavy hitters. We've got one barbecue sauce. We've kind of got the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
Yep.
So again, one of the same recipes Mr. Bishop and his family developed, over 6 decades ago. We also sell the general miscellaneous swag, a few other food items. So best way to find out what we have is to check it out. So.
All right, and that website is dreamlandbbq.com. Check it out, see what you like. If you want some of those famous ribs, order them up, and they will send them your way. And again, we're talking with Jonathan Bird, the Director of Marketing for Dreamland Barbecue. Jonathan, really appreciate the time tonight and helping us get to know Mr. Bishop a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We'll see you in Kansas City, hopefully.
All right, hopefully we'll do that. There he is, Jonathan Bird from Dreamland. And that is one of the 3 inductees into this year's Hall of Fame, John Big Daddy Bishop. Tuscaloosa is the original location, right? That's right. Hopefully we'll see you in Kansas City. Jonathan, I know you don't know the show very well, but there is a 2% chance that you'll see me at the American Royal this year. And this year continues to be the worst. I mean, this is the last of the worst years, I would say. But yeah, to say that you'll see me at the American Royal this year is probably one of the biggest stretches ever. Next year, way more likely. This year, not that likely. That's right. Like I said, doesn't know the show, but spent a lot of time here telling us about John and the growth and all that stuff. So, World Foods. Come on, man. World Foods. I don't travel anywhere. If World Foods wants me, you'll come to Cleveland. All the way back in the first hour, as we wrap up, we had first Tuesday of the month guest Malcom Reed from How to BBQ Right. We also had first Tuesday of the month guest Sam the Cooking Guy, howtobbqright.com, thecookingguy.com, respectively. Both have and or are approaching 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Hey, YouTube, how about helping this guy out? Second hour, Lee and Michael Quessenberry, JimQuessenberry.com, the website, talking about his dad, who was on the final 9, of which 3 made the 2019 Hall of Fame, telling us about his dad and how he got started in the 80s and how it was a wild west. And we closed it out with Jonathan Bird from Dreamland Barbecue as he talked to us about one of the 3 new 2019 inductees, John Big Daddy Bishop, the Dreamland founder. Big show planned for you next week. That's the 3rd, so I think actually Steven Reichlin is out of town all month. But maybe we'll get his assistant, Nancy Lowski, and we can talk about smoked cheese. We'll see. Other big-name guests all ready to go. Maybe we can get more Hall of Fame interviews. We'll see. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.